everyone, and welcome to our Beaver County meeting for our long-range plan update. Thank you all for being here. My name is Dominic DeAndrea. I am SPC's Transportation Planning Director. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite other SPC staff to introduce themselves. Let's start with Rhonda. And why don't you tell us who you are and your role at SPC. Rhonda?
So my name is Rhonda Craig, and I'm the Public Involvement Coordinator here at SPC, and I've been here for about over 6 years. And I'm the one that has sent out the invitations and so forth, and bugging you as far as panelists. So thank you all for coming.
Jen? Thank you, Rhonda.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Jen Lasser, Director of Workforce and Economic Development with SPC, and I have been with the organization for just over 3 years.
Thank you, Jen. Caleb?
Hey everyone, my name is Caleb Knudsen, and I'm the TDM Coordinator at SPC. I've been there since June 2022.
Thank you, Caleb. Chuck?
Afternoon, everybody. Chuck Abrogdo. I'm the manager of models and data at SPC. For this meeting, I was most directly involved in the air quality conformity report, and I have been with SPC since the mid-70s.
Thanks, Chuck. Let's see, working down the list here. Dave Totten?
Hi, Dave Totten, Senior Transit Planner at SPC. I've been with the agency for 13 years, and I do a lot of transit work with assisting with Beaver County Transit Authority, DART, working a lot with Mary Jo.
Thanks, Dave. DJ?
Hey everyone, DJ Ryan, Director of Strategic Initiatives and Policy here at the SPC. I'm the new guy. I've been here for about 2.5 months now. My department supervises the policy initiatives, various legislative efforts around transportation infrastructure, as well as things like active transportation, freight, sponsor programs, and various other things. So very excited to be with all of you.
Thanks, DJ. And I think I see Faith is with us too. Faith?
Hi, everyone. I'm Faith Collins. I am the Community Capacity Coordinator here at SPC. I work with Jennifer Lasser. I've been here since October of 2020. Thanks.
Thanks, Faith. John Weber?
Hey, good afternoon, all. My name is John Weber. I'm a transportation planner and transportation program development, and been here at SPC for a little over 4 years now. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Is Lily with us?
Yep, I'm here, Dom. Hi, everyone. My name is Lily Gabreski. I'm the manager of sponsored programs development. I work under DJ. I've been in my current role for about a year, and I've been with SPC for almost 5 years this summer. So good being.
Thanks, Lily. And Ryan?
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Ryan Gordon. I'm the manager of transportation program development at SPC, and I guess I've been here around 15 years.
All right. Thanks, folks. Rhonda, do you want to share the presentation? As I said, we're here to talk about our long-range plan update. I'd like to acknowledge, Beaver County Commissioners Amadio, Camp, and Manning, and other Beaver County SPC Commissioners Gray and Jones, along with Beaver County staff, and thank them for their continuing support in the development of the long-range plan and the transportation improvement plan. Also with us, I think, is Jason Zhang and John Quatman from PennDOT District 11. I want to acknowledge those folks too and their efforts, and thank them for their efforts in helping us put together this plan. We're here today to talk about future investments in our region, and specifically Beaver County, and present you the draft long-range transportation plan. The Long Range Transportation Plan is the most important effort led by SPC. We started this effort last year, and it included many meetings with your county planners, PennDOT folks, Beaver County Transit, and others. We also consulted with your commissioners on what the higher priorities are in Beaver County. The draft long-range plan invests about $543 million into specific highway and transit projects in Beaver County. In addition, there's another $1.7 billion that we have reserved in line items within the plan that can be used within District 11 for Beaver County, Allegheny County, and Lawrence County projects, counties within District 11. We will talk about some of the specific Beaver County projects later in this presentation. Next slide, please. The presentation will cover many of the key aspects of the long-range plan development, such as schedule, public involvement, the review of the plan's policies and strategies. Then we will cover the transportation planning and long-range plan project list development, including a look at current TIP funding and projects advancing from the long-range plan to the TIP and some of the listed current long-range plan projects. Then we'll shift gears a little to discuss activities and progress relative to economic development and the community initiatives portion of our plan. Next slide. So this shows the schedule, and we're down at the home stretch. We're at the next to last bullet. We are in our 30-day public comment period. As you see, it's been a pretty full effort to get to this point. And so we're in we have our draft documents on our website and distributed. We're in our 30-day comment period right now, and our goal is to get to our commission adoption at their June 26th meeting. Next slide. So this long-range plan update utilizes the efforts of the previous 2019 plan as a basis. The 2019 plan used an extensive process that included expert resource panels, public surveys, and public outreach to develop the region's visions, goals, and strategies. Most of what was developed in terms of vision, goals, and strategies is still relevant for this plan. Our policy committee, commissioners, and county planners reviewed the previous vision, goals, and strategies, and we have updated them based on their feedback. We also have feedback from the public process from the last transportation improvement plan that we rolled out earlier last year. More feedback was also received from the first set of PPP meetings for this plan in November and December of last year. Two major events have happened since the last time we did this in 2019. We are emerging from COVID-19 and dealing with its impacts on transportation and the economy. And we have the new transportation bill, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, that has provided us additional funding in the short term. Next slide, please. So the revised vision statement is a world-class, safe, well-maintained, and connected multimodal transportation system that provides mobility for all, empowers resilient and sustainable communities, and supports a globally competitive economy. The regional vision means taking advantage of our considerable existing assets and developing, supporting, and implementing projects and programs that advance our progress. This plan is about creating and connecting people to opportunity. The opportunity can be physical, tangible connections like improved regional transit, or it can be enhanced broadband connectivity. The opportunity can create connections to training for the jobs of the future that allow the region's workforce to have family-sustaining job opportunities in new and emerging industries. The opportunity is about the region connecting with opportunities to invest in and take stewardship of our older communities, as well as investing in strategies that protect our environment and address resiliency. Next slide. So this slide really provides examples of how projects contained in the plan advance the vision and strategies. The guiding principles were developed from work done through expert panels, again, commissioner feedback and input gathered from the public. So on the transit side, the guiding principles are equitable, seamless linkages between the region's public transit service, including first and last mile connections. An example of that would be expansion of rapid and frequent transit service into and out of downtown Pittsburgh from the east, west, north, and south. For active transportation, it means completion of the regional trail network. Connecting the regional trail network to communities and local active transportation networks to support healthful living and individual mobility. For roadways, it means a network of safe, well-maintained, and modern highways and bridges. Implementation of resilient and adaptable context-based street design. Next slide. So the transportation planning process goes through various steps in the cycle to produce the transportation improvement program every 2 years and a new long-range transportation plan every 4 years. So the transportation improvement program, the TIP, is a 4-year plan that gets updated every 2 years, and the long-range plan is a 25-year plan that gets updated every 4 years. Federal regulations require SPC to develop and update a long-range plan every 4 years. So we have this draft long-range transportation planning document completed after many months of effort, and our goal, again, is to have our commission adopted at our June 26th meeting. So in the next 30 days, we want your feedback on the draft plan. Later on, we will let you know how you can do that. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Ryan Gordon, who will provide more details about the process, the investments in the plan, and projects specific to Beaver County. Ryan?
All right. Thanks, Dom. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Dom. I'm going to briefly review the project list development process, also the investment and review the investment in highways, bridges, and transit at the regional level. Then I'm going to zoom into Beaver County and just highlight a few of the projects and talk a little bit more in depth. This diagram depicts the general process by which we followed during the development of the LRTP project list. You can see that the process begins and ends with public involvement, and the process of updating this plan, like I said, begins and ends with your comments, and that's why we're here today near the end of the process, so that we can provide you a summary of the draft LRTP and get your comments. So we work predominantly through our LRTP work groups that develop this plan and the project list. This includes SPC staff, PennDOT staff, from District 11, the central office staff, also Beaver County staff as well. So we utilize the work group to review current conditions, the status of our performance measures, and to develop long-range needs and review candidate projects. SPC conducted a screening and consistency criteria analysis to review all the candidate projects and provide input to the work groups. A conservative identification of future transportation revenues was done, leading to the creation of an investment plan. In cooperation with members of PennDOT and the other members of the LRTP work groups, we looked at this investment plan and we updated cost estimates and timing for projects that were already on the long-range plan. Next, we integrated new projects as needs and funding allowed. There was a total of 9 work group meetings, to come to consensus on the region's LRTP draft project list. And then after that, we conducted our air quality conformity and our environmental justice analysis, which were the required analysis that we conduct in the early spring. And now, as Dom said, the plan documents are available for public review. Next slide, please. Here are some of the focus areas that were used for investment guidance as we were developing this long-range plan. So asset management and safety continue to be the key focus areas for the region. With additional funding for bridges under IIJA, we have a significant number of new bridges and our new bridge projects listed in the LRTP. And as always, transit operations and facilities are another key area for investment. The long range plan work groups reviewed all candidate projects with these focuses in mind, and then working through various versions of the fiscally constrained project list. A final version was developed, and the process was collaborative and consensus driven in order to come up with the version of the fiscally constrained project list that is in the draft document. Next slide, please. The long-range plan is a long-term view of the transportation investments in the SPC region. It goes all the way out to 2050. Within this long time frame, we look at a conservative estimate of the revenue that's reasonably expected to be available, and we develop that into a estimate and a investment plan. The projects put on the plan cannot exceed the amount that we've identified in what's called fiscal constraint. The time frame is broken down into 3 stages with projects and funding assigned to each stage. Stage 1 is what you're familiar with as the TIP, or the current TIP, which runs through 2023 through 2026. In this time frame, we have a very detailed program of all the projects listed by phase, by year, by fund type, and amount. So this is a very detailed plan to get projects from planning all the way to construction. Stage 2 is the next 8 years after the current TIP. In this stage, we include total remaining amounts on projects that are beyond the TIP years and total costs of projects that are set to start in these years. This stage does not include minor projects, and it does include larger investment category line items. In stage 3, we're only talking about large projects, large investments, which are identified individually. The bulk of the funding is residing in investment line items. The project scopes and cost estimates are very much conceptual at this stage. Keep in mind that this total time frame represents numerous TIP updates and extends all the way out to 2050. Many of the new projects we've identified for the long range plan will be identified later in stage 2 or stage 3. Next slide, please. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about investments on the highway bridge side. Then I'm going to come back and talk about investment in the transit area. As I mentioned earlier, we estimate the amount of funding that's available in each time period for this plan that extends out to 2050. Then we match the revenue available to projects and investment categories based on detailed work done in the LRTP work groups. This graph shows the investment breakdown by investment category. The bridges continue to be the highest percentage of investment at 44%, followed by roadways at 32%. And you can see that safety, efficiency in operations, and the SPC competitive programs also receive significant slice of the investment. Next slide, please. One of the other key factors or key characteristics of the highway bridge investments is a focus on major corridors. These are corridors and routes that are on the national highway system in which we have performance condition measures which are monitored and reported. You can see on the map that the major corridors exist in every county receiving investment in this plan. This includes in Beaver 51, 65, and Route 30. Next slide, please. So next I'm going to zoom in and just provide a couple of highlights here for Beaver County. Here I've noted a few projects that were on our long range plan but have now moved along in project development, and they are now listed on the region's tip. So that's a very good thing. These projects are moving in there and will be coming up on construction. So that's a very good thing, and we constantly see this happening. The other thing I wanted to mention was economic development interest investment in Beaver County, and I listed 2 projects there to the tune of $17 million that have received state economic development funding for these projects. And they're on the current tip. Next slide, please. So, like I said, these are just highlights of some of the projects that show up on the LRTP fiscally constrained project list. As I mentioned, bridges are a large percentage of the overall investment in the region, and that's certainly the case in Beaver County as well. And I've listed some of these bridges and some of these larger roadway projects, many of which are on the major corridors that I talked about earlier. And you can see the full project list within the appendix of the plan, and that'll have a detailed description of the project as well as the estimated cost and the project sponsors. So there's much more detail in the appendices of the long range plan. And like I said, if you're checking out our website, you'll be finding those when you're looking at reviewing the material that we have posted there. So next slide, please. So now shifting gears a little bit, the LRTP also includes revenue projections, investments, and projects on the transit side. And here's a graph showing the regional investments in transit in these various investment categories. You could see a large chunk of it in operations and maintenance, but also a good bit in just purchasing, maintaining buses and passenger vehicles, as well as facilities and upgrades, and investment in some new capacity and fixed guideway and maintenance as well. So that's a lot of investment on the transit side as well. Next slide, please. So SPC transit planners met with each of the transit operators in the region, and they've discussed the future needs, projected revenue, and future projects to develop a list of LRTP projects that are within fiscal constraints. So this is much similar to what I just discussed on the highway bridge side. And in Beaver County, they worked closely with BCTA. And here I'm just zooming in on a couple of highlights of the investments in Beaver County for transit. And again, all this detailed information on project lists is contained in the appendix of the plan. But you can see here some highlights on fare collection equipment, vehicle overhauls, and different purchases and replacements of vehicles. And then in the little boxes, just our investment categories and totaling for the years 2027 to 2050 for transit investment projected for Beaver County. Next slide, please. So as many of you know, the interstate program is managed at the statewide level out of PennDOT central office in Harrisburg. So the revenue and the funding and the projects we've been discussing up until this point does not include major interstate projects, but nonetheless, we include the current interstate program in the appendices of the plan. And we also worked with each PennDOT district to put together a list of unfunded interstate needs in each district. And so as you can see here, there's no shortage of needed interstate projects as the unfunded projects in District 11 top $1 billion. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dom to talk a little bit about our other required elements of the plan. Thanks, Dom.
Thanks, Ryan. All right. So other required elements of our long-range plan. We include population and employment forecasts. Our forecasts project a modest growth regionally in population and a decent growth in employment when looking at the entire region out to year 2050. Transportation performance management, these have to do with how we are performing with regard to bridge and road condition, safety, travel reliability, and air quality relative to targets that we establish with PennDOT. Air quality conformity, it answers the question, does our proposed plan meet the Federal Clean Air Act regulations? Environmental justice, that answers the question, are the benefits and burdens of our plan equitably distributed? And of course, we are required to coordinate our efforts with many other agencies. For example, regulatory, environmental resource, and cultural resource agencies like the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Next slide, please. The conclusion of our environmental justice analysis indicates that projects identified in our draft long-range plan demonstrates that benefits of the programmed projects and total investment of resources are equitable. Furthermore, no population groups were found to be disproportionately or adversely affected by the implementation of our draft plan. Next slide. Okay, with this slide, I wanted to review the air quality designation areas. The EPA has designated 3 non-attainment and maintenance areas in the SPC planning region for the 8-hour ozone standard. These include the Pittsburgh Beaver Valley non-attainment area, comprised of the 7 counties, Allegheny, Armstrong, Beaver, Butler, Fayette, Washington, and Westmoreland. The Greene County maintenance area, comprised of Greene County in its entirety, and the Clearfield, Indiana maintenance area, comprised of Clearfield County, which is outside of our planning area, and Indiana County, which is within our planning area. Conformity determinations for transportation plans and programs are based as appropriate on build and no build analysis, comparisons to an emissions budget, and or comparisons to emission levels from a base year. Next slide, please. So I'm going to have Chuck and Brogno is going to correct me if I say anything wrong about these technical graphs. But these maps refer to these ones that we have up here right now. These charts refer to the EPA ozone standard. The graph on the left is the ozone precursor emissions, the volatile organic compounds, mostly unburned gasoline from tailpipe. The graph on the right is ozone precursor emissions, nitrogen oxides, a byproduct of fuel combustion. For both graphs, the top line is the motor vehicle emission budget approved for our area for the type of emission represented in the graph. Bottom line is the emission projection that we made from 2024 to 2050 in tons per day. Conformity is demonstrated if emission projection is lower than the budget. The graphs do show that this is the case for our draft plan. Next slide. In these charts, we're looking at the PM 2.5 or particulate matter measurement. It refers to tiny particles or droplets in the air that are 2.5 microns or less in width. Again, an EPA standard. The graph on the left is the PM 2.5 precursor emissions that include tire wear, brake wear, and fuel combustion byproducts. The graph on the right is nitrogen oxides. Both graphs, again, the top line is the motor vehicle emission budget approved for our area, for these areas. The bottom line is the emission projection, our projection 2024 to 2050 in tons per year. Conformity is demonstrated if emission projection is lower than budget. The graphs do show that this is the case. In conclusion, our draft plan is in conformance with the Clean Air Act. Next slide. And I now want to turn it over to Jen Lasser, our Director of Economic and Workforce Development. Hi, Jen, who will talk about progress in these areas within our plan.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Jen Lasser, Director of Workforce and Economic Development, and going to provide just some brief updates pretty quick for everybody. Next slide. So in the document, we talked about 3 separate strategies, and the first was building a diverse local workforce to meet the demand for highly skilled talent across sectors, being very, very critical. So we need to grow the size of the candidate market and also ensure that it has the skills and soft skills needed to meet the expectations. So ultimately, we want to build a workforce and grow the candidate market. We want to retrain, train, and employ. So we've had recently, over the last time when we've updated, workforce committees working to determine whatever those regional priorities are going to be, but specifically figuring out what those priorities are. And specifically, what are the barriers to education and employment? So we want to also promote career pathways, as well as we're working with our workforce investment boards and community colleges to create on-the-job training opportunities for current and future workers. As you know, the region was awarded a $62 million Build Back Better grant with a lot of the partners in our region that you're aware of, Beaver County wise. Beaver County Community College was one of those partners and is a phenomenal partner at that with the types of training that they're implementing into the curriculum. We also have a lot of our regional partners putting together campaigns to recruit new individuals and businesses into the region. Again, we want to continue to grow and thrive. And then working with the workforce investment boards and partners to increase opportunities for underserved populations. So a lot of times, you know, Beaver County currently is right around 4.7% unemployment rate. So as the workforce continues to become employed and that unemployed population continues to shrink, we need to be very cognizant of the opportunities that are out there for underserved. So in terms of maybe working with individuals who previously have been incarcerated or substance abuse or long-term unemployed, but working with these individuals to ensure that opportunities exist and that these hidden talent pools that maybe may not have been utilized in the past are able to get back to work. And so one of the other things that we're seeing is childcare and transportation still remain large barriers for the region. And so we're working to try and mitigate and put together opportunities to help solve that. Next. So infrastructure is one of the second. And so keeping our aging infrastructure in a state of good repair is necessary to support the growth of the region, but it's also important that we build the infrastructure of the future. So goal here is to prioritize infrastructure that provides economic success. So embracing innovation and technology to improve efficiency, but also supporting projects that maximize the use of local derived energy industry. So progress utilize the IIJA, transportation funding, as well as grant resources to apply for and receive funding to improve and support and grow the region's infrastructure. Continue to work with regional partners on energy diversification projects such as solar, carbon capture, NGL, hydrogen hub. As you know, Western Pennsylvania has probably one of the most diverse energy economies in the United States, that we have all these things, and it makes us very, very marketable. Team PA submitted a regional hydrogen hub application for Southwestern Pennsylvania. Again, we continue to work to understand and determine the economic impacts of infrastructure projects. Why this is really important is that a strong infrastructure allows for your population to remain in the area, but it's also going to be very important to recruit new residents, new businesses. And so in addition, our community colleges have been training the regional workforce to support the needs of both advanced manufacturing and our energy sectors. Next slide. And finally, under the area of technology, fast-paced technology, identification, deployment, and adoption across all sectors will give this region a competitive advantage. So ensuring that the entire region is provided equal access to high-speed internet connectivity is essential. And so the Connectivity Improvement Plan was created to provide affordable, reliable broadband internet. And a lot of the people on this call were a part of that. So thank you again. We had a lot of our local governments apply for middle mile grants. We hosted the Regional Broadband Summit in February of 23. We're in the process of conducting a small business connectivity survey so that we can understand not only what the needs of small business are for connectivity, but creating a toolkit to help them get online and kind of prosper online. And then workforce training opportunities exist to try to speed up the process of deployment by putting together lineman trainings so that we can ensure that we're able to do that. And again, Beaver County-wise, has always been really, really ahead of the game with broadband. Lance and his team have just been a phenomenal partner to SPC in the area of broadband, and we've appreciated all the feedback, data, and partnership there. So that's it for me, and looking forward to any questions you might have at the end of the presentation.
Thanks, Jen. And I'll cover some of the community initiatives. Next slide, please. So, on the left side, again, are some of the strategies that are in our plan. And I'll give some progress here on where we're at. In terms of educating and engaging municipalities, we've held a number of workshops for local governments on local project delivery and local bridge funding mechanisms. In terms of promoting strategic infrastructure investment in communities that reduces risks, we've dedicated funding now in our for a few years now in our TIP and our long range plan for landslide remediation. We've assisted counties in allocating over 17 million in COVID-19 hospitality industry recovery program. That's to Jen's credit. In terms of investing in strategies that mitigate the impacts of climate change, we've expanded SPC's Water Resource Center programming and assistance, and we've hired a dedicated environmental programs manager to expand SPC's environmental programs, including sustainability and resiliency. Next slide. Ongoing and planned activities in terms of investing in strategies that mitigate climate change, and supporting and encouraging low carbon transportation projects and programs. We are leading the region's planning for the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program with, including folks on this phone call, a broad coalition of partners and stakeholders. We're creating an online toolkit for the charging and fueling infrastructure discretionary funding program. And I'll invite DJ Ryan, our Director of Strategic Initiatives and Policy, to say a few words about his department's efforts regarding this and discretionary funding. DJ?
Yeah, thanks, Dom. Hi, everybody. I'll be brief, but just in general, SPC has a wealth of knowledge around various discretionary funding opportunities, particularly from the federal government, but also sometimes state or other sources. And we work with planning partners and local entities to determine if their specific project is best included as part of a regional application or if it merits a locally led application. In addition to that, SPC also has a variety of different discretionary funding sources that it administers directly. So if you or an entity that you work with has an unfunded infrastructure project, really the best thing to do is just to reach out to SPC directly. We'll be happy to plug you in with one of our various programs and discuss your project and see what the best fit is for it, rather than you going to one specific funding source and maybe there's another one out there you didn't know about that might be a better candidate. So I do hope that you'll reach out to our department. Lily's on this call as well, who manages our sponsored programs, and we're more than happy to work with you to find the best possible way to get your project paid for.
Thanks, DJ. A lot of work has been done in the past year on applying for discretionary funding. Our other activities include, continuing to program federal CMAQ eligible projects that provide the greatest benefit to regional air quality, CMAQ, congestion mitigation air quality, CMAQ. We will also begin to allocate a new formula program, the Federal Carbon Reduction Program funding. We're preparing we're making preparations to administer that program, hoping to start funding regional projects this summer. Next slide. Next slide. So we have another slide there, Rhonda?
It was giving her a hard time unmuting. She's just trying to get that, and then she'll reshare in a second.
Okay. I thought we had one more slide. Yeah, one more after that one. I thought. There we go. Thank you, Rhonda. So on the left side there, you see our meeting schedule in the next month, the next 30 days. Comment period starts today. We have 11 meetings in the next 30 days, starting with this one. You folks are the lucky first meeting. And Rhonda, do you want to? I hope you can talk while you're sharing here. Do you want to talk about how folks can access the document and make a formal comment? Or should I? Are you muted, Rhonda? If it's better that way, Rhonda, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was having difficulties sharing and unmuting at the same time. So my apologies.
That's okay. Did you hear me? I wasn't sure if you heard me.
Yeah, I was hearing you, but you weren't hearing me. So just 1 second to get back.
Yeah, I was wondering if you wanted to just talk about, access to the documents and how folks can comment.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
No. Okay. Just give me 1 second to get to the end again. So there are a variety of ways to provide comments, feedback, thoughts, ideas, and ask questions. You can comment verbally today at the end of the presentation, or you can also drop your comments and questions into the chat box, and we will take note of all of those. You can provide written comments by mail, and you can mail them to the PO box address that's on the screen. or you can also fax your comments to the phone number there, the 412-391-96 or 9160. Your comments. You can also email your comments via an electronic form to comments@spcregion.org, or you can also compose an email and send it to, again, that comments@spcregion.org. That works as well. All forms and the how-tos of providing feedback can also be found on our website by going to spcregion.org, clicking on the Get Involved tab, and scrolling down to the bottom of the page and clicking on the SPC Public Input Form. And you can provide that. You can send it back to us. I also will send around an evaluation form to everybody in their email that's on the call today to tell us how we did in the presentation. If you have any questions, remember it later on today. Please don't hesitate to email me at the rcraig there on the screen at spcregion.org, or you can call me at that number on the screen. If you would like to join any public future meetings, as Dominic had pointed out to the left, is a list of all of the other counties' meetings, the dates, the times, and locations. We would love to see you if you would like to join in any of those meetings. Also, you can please follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. And also, today's virtual presentation will be posted on our YouTube channel, along with an array of other videos that can be found on our YouTube channel. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today and bearing with me there in technology difficulties I was having. Up next, we're going to have questions.
I don't see any questions in the chat box, but so I'm just going to open the floor to anyone who wants to give us feedback or make any comment or what have you. I mean, we could use the raise hand, or people can just jump in. Anybody?
Hi, my name's Tom Woolaway, and first I want to congratulate everybody for all the work that's gone into the project that you've done so far. I had some ideas on some additional potential projects, and I'm planning to send some of those in to an email. But just to summarize them, one would be improving access roads to the hospital in Beaver County, which is the Heritage Valley Beaver. There's 3 access roads that have all been closed in the past due to slides because they're all built on hillsides. Beaner Hollow Road is the one I think is in the worst shape right now and probably needs some, some maintenance done to it. And long term, there's been discussion of, replacing that road. Another area that I think is worthy of considering is trying to improve public access to the Beaver and Ohio rivers through paths and park development and things like that. But I'll put those into an email that I'll send in with further details.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Once we get that, we'll review it and we'll respond. Obviously, access to hospitals and parks, that's pretty important.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Mike Durwall here. Just wanted to, I happen to be 71 years old, haven't figured out how that all happened. But one of the things is I've seen some things over the years. And over the years, we were raised as a lifetime resident in the center here, but attended church in Ambridge, Byzantine Church in Ambridge. So I made the trip across the Aliquip Ambridge Bridge for many, many years. And I happen to remember before I had my license at age 14, the bridge was in pretty bad shape and it went through a major restoration at that time. And then I think that, if my memory serves me, correct me, and I'll defer to anyone with a better memory, that about 20 odd years ago, it went through another similar major refurbishment and repair. But it's always been pretty much considered to be inadequate for its task. And I see that if I read all that correctly, it looks like there's refurbishment again on the list for it. And I just kind of wanted to give everybody a perspective of the lifetime of that. I know there were a couple of different projects that were considered over the years. One was Crow's Run all the way across to the Pleasant Drive, the center exit at Pleasant Drive. Another one was a bridge across the river from Ohio River Boulevard, punching into Franklin Avenue. So I just kind of wanted to give some perspective about that and see if anyone had any comments to make on it. It's something I can put into an email and forward, but I just wanted to bring that concept up.
Dom, if you don't, this is Commissioner Manning, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'll respond to Mike on this, in that I've had several conversations on this, Mike. I'd like to have a replacement plan. The refurbishment was about 15 years ago to extend it about 20 years. That bridge will be 100 years old coming up in 3 years. I think we have to think about a replacement. The discussions I have had with Cheryl Moon Sirianni before she moved on to bigger and better things, apparently, in Harrisburg, were to build a span right next to that span and not go through acquisitions, right-of-ways, and all those other things that were floated out there, those options, and simply build a span next to it like we've done in Koppel, like they've done with the Holston Bridge and some others, because we already have the right-of-ways there. But that's probably a $100 million project. As you know, the county owns that. We don't have an extra 100 million sitting around, so it's something that I would like to diligently plan on. What is the replacement strategy? Because it obviously just can't continue to be refurbished. That will eventually, hopefully, work its way onto SPC's bigger plans for some implementation down the road. But it's going to take federal and state, funding from somewhere to eventually get that replaced.
Thank you.
And just compliments on the meeting in general to everybody who worked on it.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Commissioner. One of the things that's typically done when you're talking about a new alignment is there's a small study that's usually done to determine should the alignment be to the left, to the right, what's the most economical. There's usually a small realignment study that's done before engineering takes place. So maybe that's just a thought off the top of my head here.
Joe, that's some of the stuff we have to think about now. Yeah.
Anything else?
I can jump in a little bit, Dom. This is Jason from PennDOT.
Hi, Jason.
Hi. How
Thank you. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, no problem. The study for a bridge replacement can certainly be done. I guess the thing to keep in mind is the bridge that's out there continues to deteriorate. And I believe what we're doing is a preservation project. And the point of that is to spend a little bit of money to extend the life of the bridge. So we have to do that regardless, but we can certainly, look at that option in the longer term. But as Dom was saying, getting onto a new alignment it affects a lot of businesses and a lot of people, and we try not to do that if we don't absolutely have to. If the bridge has life in it, we try to extend it, and I think that's something we do in District 11 pretty well. We do extend the life of our bridges and preserve them and keep them out there. So just trying to add a little perspective.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Anyone else want to chime in? Lou, you're very quiet.
Well, I did remember a lot of the base part of the plan. Does look a little similar. No, I think that, I have technical questions that are basically, I'd love to know how hard it was for Imbrogno to do air quality now that we've added Shell to the mix, what that looked like as opposed to some of the previous times. Things that I just, little inside baseball stuff, the population forecasts, trying to figure out what's in those and what's not in those. So, but otherwise, you guys did a great job as always. I'm a proud alum. So, you guys keep up the good work.
Thanks, Lou. And we'll have Chuck touch base with you on some of those questions. I'm sure you have a few of them, knowing the details of the plan like you do.
Yep.
Anyone else?
No, I did think of something. Sorry.
Yep.
And it's going to get to the economic development it is and how much money is on the East Gateway. Primarily because we're about to have two major expansions and a major announcement there this week for what was the old tin mill site, but sort of the Aliquippa Industrial Park on the other side of that East Gateway, and the one point in time the tunnel was part of that. Looking at changing that tunnel, and we are about to have two major expansions in that area and a major announcement that would make the need for us to move that quickly or as quickly as possible, knowing that it goes under a railroad and all that entails, right? We've been through this before. So I just want to know, not looking at the projects, Ryan, but how much is in there for the East Gateway and how much more do we need to get in there? You know?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the detailed tip, figure that out. But I between the two projects, we've got 17 million programmed, but I don't know the splits without looking back at it. I'll shoot you an email.
If that one's going to get that's going to be a priority real soon. Simply because of exactly what we're seeing there, which means there's probably only one parcel left down there, and it's ours. And we're getting phone calls on that now, so it's going to be that alternative entrance, and that tunnel is going to be an issue. But just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I'll check into it. I'll give you some details, and if we need to set up something, with the people involved, we can do that. So
okay, thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Anyone else have anything they want to comment on or ask a question on? Okay, with that, I will be respectful of everyone's time and this beautiful day that we have out there, and say thank you all for participating and appreciate your feedback. And as we said, this is day one of the 30-day comment period. So please, we will follow up on some of these points with some folks, and please take the time to read. The draft plan is on our website. Please take the time to look at it and give us a call or provide us a formal comment in writing. Either way, we really appreciate your time today. Thank you all very much for being on the call.